that's really exciting. That's real exciting to hear. That's like cutting edge. This is an MD that's telling us too. It's like, wow. Now, there's another part that happens in autism. We're not going into that. That's all about vaccinations and other things that happen too. We won't go there. But it's an extremely complex living system, our gut. And it gets messed up with antibiotics. It's a delicate system, and sometimes there's that suggestion that even our mom's microbiome affects what I have and what I deal with.
Is this the lower gut or any particular?
Nothing related to what we're doing.
Physiologically.
Okay. I just had her make a picture of the slide that I had so I could go over it with you later, but it's not now. Okay. So everything about your gut affects your health, more so than you probably ever thought about. So one of the sayings that I have is like, heal your gut and heal your body. Come on in. If you want to. So, okay. The gut is naturally permeable to very small particles in order to absorb important nutrition. So I put a picture I like to think about it like a fishing net. Okay, so I found a picture of a fishing net in color, and I had it on the slide to show you. There's only certain size holes in the fishing net. Okay, and so what happens when the gut has so it can absorb nutrients. But I'm talking about a fishing net just as a picture. So what happens with increased intestinal permeability, also called leaky gut for short, increased intestinal permeability, it would be like the net, those holes getting larger. It's when junctures in the small intestine and the wall start to break apart. Okay? So, when they don't work properly, when these junctures in the small intestine don't work properly, they start to break apart. And then you can look at the picture that you have. Does everybody have one? One more over here. One more. Sorry, we don't have all the new buildings. So you see the junctures on the left, the junctions there, okay? And then this is another way to look at it. When you look to the right, do you see where the junctions are breaking apart?
I'll take one.
You see where they're starting to break apart? When that happens, it starts to allow food particles, gluten, antibodies, toxins, just from the gut into your bloodstream. Circulates through the
Moringa?
bloodstream.
Moringa.
And so what do you think that is?
ADD.
Yeah, all kinds of well, that might be secondary. That wouldn't happen right away. That is more related to the liver function. But what we're talking about here is that now you start to have things going through your gut lining. Okay? So think of that if it's easier, like a fishing net, so you've got two holes that are too big. Now you've got particles that were never meant to go into your bloodstream, circulating in your bloodstream 24/7. Okay. So this leaking of toxins, protein, foods, and antibodies, gluten included, is into your bloodstream. This leaking is referred to as leaky gut. Okay? That's what I'm going to talk about tonight. That picture is going to help you a lot. The most common gut symptoms that you see, the gut symptoms that you see, are chronic diarrhea, constipation, gas, bloating, weight gain, intermittent kinds of things. And that's just what you see. What happens in addition is you start to have micronutrient depletion. So you may develop malabsorption or just have poor immune system and become deficient in B12, for example, iron. Vitamin D is very common. It varies from person to person, so just when you think you know, you'll see it different with another person. So, but typically, if I'm seeing a patient with leaky gut, I often see an iron deficiency anemia develop when it's severe enough. The vitamin D level will be very low because they can't absorb the nutrients, and they're not absorbing properly. There's other pieces to that, and we'll get to it, okay? Other symptoms of leaky gut can look like joint pain, osteoporosis, things you might not think about. Whoever connected osteoporosis to the gut?
Herbert Shelton, maybe.
What?
Herbert Shelton or Carrington?
Yeah?
Herbert Carrington?
Skin issues? Somebody said.
I think it was Isaac Jennings in 1822.
What?
Isaac Jennings in 1822, probably. There. George Drews?
I don't know, because I didn't know him.
They're just people who did this. Oh.
How about depression, anxiety? We talked about that a little bit. Fatigue, because it affects the adrenals. Headaches, brain fog, memory loss, sinus issues. It just keeps going, okay? It just keeps going. So, what do you think causes leaky gut? What do you think some of the areas are?
Glyphosate.
Diet's one of them. That's right there on the top. What else? Stress is right up there. Infections, toxins. So let's look at the diet. We know there's a lot of components in it, and I'm not going to go on and on into all the details of diet, but we do know that gluten is very abrasive to the gut because, you know, gluten is in so many things today it never was in before or meant to be in, and the amounts of it. And we've got hybridized wheat products now, they're not the same. It's changed everything. So now we hear people have gluten intolerance, sensitivity. Maybe the numbers are as high as at least 60% or more of people have developed a gluten intolerance. I'll explain why that is. We see with the diets of sugar, excessive sugar contributes, excessive alcohol contributes, cross-reactive foods to gluten, we'll talk about that later.
Yeah, anything has.
Grains, pseudo-grains, even legumes and even nuts can contribute. I'll get to it. Okay, hold that thought.
Anything acid forming. Yeah.
Infections, that would look like yeast overgrowth, parasites, SIBO. SIBO is small intestine bacterial overgrowth. And you'll find with leaky gut that SIBO and yeast overgrowth are very often linked. One person will have the SIBO and have a really, bad bacterial infection. It helps to cause the leaky gut too. It contributes. They like feed off of each other once the whole gut is out of balance. Does that make sense? Parasites do. And then if we go to toxins, we start to look at things like medications. We look at like non-steroidal anti-inflammatory, or NSAIDs, as we call them medically. We just say things for short, We don't like to say it, we look for the shortest way. So we say NSAIDs. That would look like your Motrin, your Aleve, your Advil. Steroids. Seen a lot of it with steroids and leaky gut and yeast overgrowth. Antibiotics, protein pump inhibitors like Prilosec, Nexium, and then other kinds of toxins like mercury, heavy metals, pesticides, that kind of thing. Pardon?
Vaccine.
Yes. Yeah. Then you look at stress and chronic stress that people live in today And it seems to become more, that leaky gut's more prevalent as we get older, because we compensate more. When we're younger, it takes a while to develop, right? And I put down possible surgeries, radiation, chemo, major stressors in your life, could be emotional, a lot of things that affect our bodies and affect our gut. We hold a lot of emotions in our gut. So let's go back and look at a moment for gluten. I don't think that you don't have gluten here tonight, and some of you may eat the gluten, you may eat it and not even realize it's in anything that you're eating. It's not always marked. So it's a general name for a family of proteins found in wheat, rye, barley, and another triticale, which is a hybrid grain. That hybrid grain is a wheat and rye. The thing about gluten is it acts like a glue to hold things together, foods, all the baking. It's hard. They work with that with other flours, but it's very hard to hold anything together. It's now found in beauty products. And it's in everything, as you know. It's not even marked a lot of times in things. So it's in soy sauce. It's in barbecue sauce. I went to buy something at Trader Joe's, and it was a turkey chili, bean chili, and they had wheat gluten. It was like, what's it doing in there? Yeah. They do. You have to watch it very carefully. So in gluten sensitivity, we see something called gulp. And if it was on an overhead, it would be easier. But it's gut-associated lymph tissue, and that identifies the protein gliadin as dangerous substance, and it makes antibodies against it. But that's the process where people become gluten sensitive. But when it's celiac disease, it's the gliadin and this other transglutaminase, a T, small t, capital TG. And then that originally broke gluten down into two parts, so it just is an extra part when it gets to celiac disease. Okay? Now let's go, somebody had the question about pseudograins. Let's go back there. I want to talk about some of the foods that so who would have thought pseudograins? These are seeds of broadleaf plants, amaranth, chia seeds, quinoa. Might be some of your favorites. And particularly if you're gluten-free, you go to some of these things. You go to eat pseudograins. I'm going to talk about it a little bit more later, but you asked me over here, does anyone ask me over here, what are pseudograins?
So there's gluten in them?
No, we say these are pseudograins, and we say they're good for you, but they can cause problems with leaky gut, and we'll talk about that. Okay? Some of the foods now, I'm talking about foods that can cause gut inflammation, and this may surprise you. Pseudograins are one of them. That's your chia seeds, your amaranth, your quinoa, your buckwheat.
Where does rice fall in?
Hold on. Then there's your legumes, plants of the pea family, your lentils, chickpeas, lima beans, pinto beans, alfalfa, lentils, clover, foods that can cause gut inflammation. I wish I had the overhead so you could visually see it, so I'm just trying to give you. We got pseudograins that can cause inflammation. We have legumes that can cause inflammation big time. And we have a problem with the legumes because of lectins.
Yep.
It's a type of protein found mostly in the beans and grains, a few veggies.
And they're a poor combination of protein and starch. Themselves, they don't match themselves well on the protein and starch food combination chart. And that's why they create gas.
It's not just the gas, it's the lectin.
Yeah, and then Pythagoras had a problem with them in that they are the souls of new beings. Like they're the fetus of a new plant. That's like that's like Pepsi killing stem cells of babies,
So let's hold that till later, would you?
Yeah.
Thanks. Okay, so the lectins can damage the gut lining. They do not break down when they're cooked. They're also found in your nightshades. You know your nightshades are your peppers, eggplant, tomatoes family.
Don't eat the plant, it's very toxic.
So those pseudo grains, the legumes, can cause gut inflammation because of the lectins. Now there's a bunch of these things: lectins, prolamins, glutenins, and it goes on and on. And I only picked like 3 or 4 to even bring it up, because typically, if you're not doing gluten, or if you're a vegetarian or you're a vegan, you're eating these things, and you're eating a lot of them. So I just thought I'd share a little bit about it. It doesn't mean that you can't. What has to happen in it is they need to be soaked. Okay, they need to be soaked, sprouted, and things to make it. If you're having a problem with them, okay. Additional foods that cause inflammation. Another word, agglutinin. It's a natural insecticide, but it's been now being genetically modified grains, that become harmful when it comes to the agglutinins. It's engineered to produce more natural insecticides than what it already did, okay? That's the danger of the GMO. Prolamins. These are necessary proteins for seed growth. They're not easily digested. No surprise to you, gluten is a prolamin, okay? It contributes to cross-reactivity with gluten. We're going to talk about that next. The problem, okay, so you asked about rice. The problem with some of the grains is that they contain a prolamin similar in structure to glutens. So when you're having a problem in the gut, and if you're starting a leaky gut process, okay, and you're already having problems with the gluten, the body, and you're producing antibodies, the body mistakes these other
Punishment diet.
rice, corn, it mistakes other things, pseudo grains, and it starts to produce antibodies against them too.
Yeah. Yeah, anything that requires heating to destroy the toxins within it creates new toxins from, they're called inorganic mineral salts, and they when the organic molecule elements of potassium, sodium, magnesium, phosphorus, they get heated. Anything. I have a whole book from 1900 from George Druce. It's called Unfired Food, and any of these molecules and elements, when heated, become dangerous to our system. Whereas when they're unheated, we can store them and build with new cells.
Thank you for sharing that. Okay, so let's go on. I'm going to do one more. I talked about pseudograins, lectins, agglutinins, prolamins, and phytic acid. And there's a bunch more. You could start looking this stuff up and you go, oh my gosh, how did this all happen?
Yeah.
How do you eat? And what's left?
Well, they're acid. Those things are acid forming. There's a whole chart. You say what's acid forming and what's alkaline forming. Things that are alkaline forming are living. Like Ann Wigmore taught my mom. It's all about living. As long as it's living, as soon as you've killed something, it's no longer
Okay, so
photons.
this phytic acid is a storage form of phosphorus found in the bran, the hull of grains, nuts, seeds, and we can't digest the phytic acid. Okay, nuts can be higher in phytic acid than grains, and it has the potential to decrease the iron absorption more than wheat. The phytic acid binds to minerals in foods we're eating, and it keeps us from absorbing
Anti-nutrients.
these nutrients, like iron, like zinc, etc.
Those are the anti-nutrients.
Interferes with digestive enzymes that we need to digest our foods. Typically, people are getting probably 630 to maybe 800 milligrams of phytic acid a day. It's recommended that it needs to be limited to more like 100 to 400 milligrams a day. It's not that you can't have some, it's the amount of it. Okay, so I'm bringing this up so that you understand that there's a lot of foods that can inflame the gut. And we'll go into this more. There's ways to test for it's challenging when you see someone with leaky gut or SIBO or some combination and a yeast overgrowth. When you see them far down the road, you have to go. You're going back to try to repair the damage that's happened. Of 24/7 inflammation and particles. Remember, they're going through the netting like a fish net, but the holes are too big now, and so it's escaping into your bloodstream directly. Then the person starts to have more and more symptoms, go to more and more doctors, but no. And then they eventually, if it stays long enough, they end up with a label and a diagnosis. And still, if nobody's getting to the leaky gut, this whole process. Do you understand what's going on 24/7?
So are you saying that nuts and rice and beans can cause leaky gut?
Oh yeah.
Can cause gut
Is
inflammation.
that what you're saying?
No, I didn't say it's just saying they cause gut inflammation. They're part of the diet stuff that I'm talking about.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna walk you through a little further, so hold it, okay? So now I'm gonna go back and I said cross-reactive foods that cross-react with gluten and cause inflammation. I got a long list of them. You can't see it up here, but amaranth, buckwheat, chocolate, coffee, corn. Some of these you know, dairy products. That is milk, cheese, whey protein, and other alpha casein, beta, very specific things. Eggs, hemp, millet, oats, potato, rice, sesame, sorghum, soy, tapioca, yeast. That's the grouping. I think there's 19 or 20 there, and Polish wheat. I don't know what that is. It's always on the list. I've never had it, but I know.
It's
But-
wheat that spells backwards.
It's what?
It's wheat that spells
Okay.
backwards.
Thank you. That's as good an answer as I like that. So now look at that. Look at what I'm sharing with you. All those foods are the biggest reactors that we know today that cross-react with gluten and cause inflammation. Now right there, it takes some of my favorite foods. Potato, rice. Now I can live without some of the potato, but not the rice. A little chocolate, you know.
I got carob.
All rice.
Carob's a
Oh,
tough.
yeah.
When you're talking about chocolate, you're talking about cacao?
Yeah. I'm talking about chocolate,
I got a video about chocolate.
real chocolate.
That's toxic. That's toxic to living.
Yeah, we'll get there.
The theobromine and toxic, like insects and.
And you know, corn chips, you know, I mean, I
What?
can't have my gluten, so, you know, I want
Salt
some
is-
corn chips or rice
No way.
or something.
You want your sodium from like fresh sodium. You want your sodium from not sodium chloride.
About the nuts, because this group knows that we soak and sprout our nuts so that they're in a different format. Does that kill that product?
It doesn't kill it, but I spoke to you about it and said that sprouting and soaking is gonna help the issue with the phytic acid and lower.
It create a mold issue though.
Lower.
But not
Risk
Not
of
gonna
mold.
eliminate it.
I thought stands for many.
Yeah.
Well, that's a different thing. That's a great thing.
No way. There's no such thing as good, but
But I just wanted to
fermentation
share with
halts
you,
the digestion
and
process.
particularly as a vegan and vegetarian group, because sometimes we think things, well, this is good and this isn't.
It's acid forming.
And so,
There's no good-
you
there's
know,
no good or bad.
sprouting things and soaking is gonna help you to digest it. But if you're having an issue.
Otherwise
in
you
the gut,
couldn't. Yeah.
It can cause inflammation and make it worse.
That's like a last resort
And
survival.
so can those foods that I said are the most common cross-reactive foods to cause inflammation in the gut. So, who wants to talk to me about what are 9 signs of a leaky gut? What do you think now? I've given you a whole bunches of clues. Let's take some diagnosis. No. Let's take some medical diagnosis. Let's take some 9 signs that you've got leaky gut already. What? Autoimmune illnesses. She got it. That's one. Okay, what's that gonna look like? Rheumatoid arthritis. Lupus. Hashimoto's, hypothyroid, psoriasis. Oh, that's under skin, sorry, CFIDs, chronic fatigue syndrome, fibromyalgia, and more. We have, those are not all the autoimmune, but that's a number of them.
What about their blood pressure? Is it
What
high
that
or low?
means is, you probably had leaky gut for quite a while to get the diagnosis, okay? So you had the inflammation going on, and the picture shows you had the stuff leaking into your bloodstream 24/7. This is all going on, and why is it? We don't know. Why does one person get lupus? The other person gets rheumatoid arthritis. And that has probably something to do with our DNA, genes, etc. Okay, so we got 1 out of 9.
So I'd say pale face and extreme fatigue.
No, we're just going with diagnoses now.
Okay, extreme fatigue.
No. No, you already got that as a symptom, but this is a sign that you got a leaky gut.
Yeah, but what are the symptoms?
I went
That's the question.
I went through a lot of stuff already.
Yeah, but-
I'm gonna go do some more, but let's just stay here for a minute, because I talked about it through the skin. Look at your Alzheimer's.
How about diarrhea and not infrequent bowel movements?
Okay, so you don't have, what's the picture? You don't have the one, okay, so this'll help you. Okay, so here's where we start. The inflammation, you start to get inflammation in the gut lining, okay? That gut lining is still intact, but now it's inflamed. And then you start to have some nutrient malabsorption issues.
Yeah, because it's like clogged, right? It's like all the tissues are blocked up and inflamed,
So you might have
swelled
some
up.
problems with magnesium, B12, iron, probably not getting picked up. You might start to have an immune response.
A lot of extra white blood cells.
Yeah,
Pus,
could,
yeah.
it's probably gonna be undercover right now, won't show, not yet. Okay, now you'll start to have some stomach issues like bloating, a little bit of diarrhea here and there. Wow, that's kind of strange, had some diarrhea, it's gone. Oh, I've got some constipation, you know, things like that, some gut issues. That you might start to see multiple food intolerances. Who's got that in the room? You don't have to put your hand down. Multiple food intolerances. Now, I add another area here. You would start to see things like sinus, frequent colds, frequent flu, food sensitivities. Another person might start to have some depression, anxiety, ADD. Did you ever think of that with your gut? Skin. How about rosacea, psoriasis? Okay? So now you've got the process going on, and somebody starts to have weird skin things. They get rashes, they develop rosacea they never had before, and they go, I never had that before. They have psoriasis. They just go to doctors and get treated for the psoriasis, right? Some people start to have some thyroid symptoms of the fatigue, weight gain. The fatigue could also be coming from adrenal. So another person has more joint activity. They start to have joint pain, headaches, odd kinds of things. This goes around and around in a circle. You saw my picture, it goes around, and eventually, as it continues long enough, you actually get the diagnosis that we're talking about now. So one person gets an autoimmune disease, and it'll be rheumatoid arthritis. Another person has fibromyalgia. Another person has lupus. Okay, now I mentioned a bunch of clues here. So a second sign that you got a leaky gut going is seasonal allergies or asthma. Okay? Now we got 9 of these. Now I've talked about some of them. So one of them would be your food allergies and food intolerances. Another would be your mood and mind issues. Another is hormonal imbalances, including PMS. Does this make sense?
I don't have to worry about that.
Now, that doesn't mean y'all have something, y'all have something. But these are signs, and by the time I often see someone and I'm reviewing things and I'm like, I've talked to the person on the phone, but I haven't seen them, and I start suspecting. And many times they come in and they already have an autoimmune disease. I will say so far, I have never tested and not had them have leaky gut. And usually it's been going on for years and just unraveling the whole system. And they're eating good food. No hormones, you know. I mean, they're eating the best food, all organic. They're spending a fortune on supplements and food.
But the only thing that's food, they're probably eating a lot of non-food, you know. Human food, as frugivores, we're hominids. All hominids are frugivorous creatures. Our gut, colon size, and length.
They're eating good food. Okay, I'm not gonna go into that because that's not what I'm here to do tonight. But I wanna give you an idea of the kinds of things to think about with leaky gut that you might not have thought about before. You might not have connected it to the skin or to the mind or the food intolerances that you have or the autoimmune disease or the suggestion, or maybe some people are heading towards that place. You know, what you'd like to do is stop it and get a wholesome early enough that with an intervention, until we had ways to diagnose this and to identify some of the things, we couldn't do it. We couldn't do it. So it's just all the research now is phenomenal.
Is that a test, did you say?
Yeah, we'll get there.
Okay, we're gonna get there. You got great questions.
You just like one
I
step
got a
ahead.
great mind.
So in the progression, if you look at your arrow at the top, you'll see this is about autoimmune diseases. No inflammation, you start to have symptoms, just a little bit, a couple of times a month, then you start to have them a little bit more. You see the progression there to the diagnosis of autoimmune disease. That's specific, but you could also change that and say that's the progression to the rosacea, or to the depression, or to fibromyalgia, or chronic fatigue syndrome, or lupus, okay? So you can look at your picture below there, and it shows you how you have toxins and gluten and microorganisms coming and getting right into the bloodstream, okay? It's a good picture. And that's the picture where that's the leaky faucet, you know? That's the place where the junctions are broken down. And so until, you know, we've had a couple of tests that they did for leaky gut, but they had either one had false negatives, another had false positives. It wasn't that great, but I will jump ahead for you that Cyrex is a laboratory I use, and their lab is actually here, but their headquarters is in California. And as far as I'm concerned, they have the top test. They test for antibodies. And they have a lot of tests. They do the leaky gut test now. They just released the SIBO test, which is incredible to be able to get the diagnosis on that, because it just wasn't getting treated before. Just the small bacteria. So you get that mixture. You know, we knew about the chronic yeast, but we were missing the SIBO part, and we'll probably find out more and more. But there's hope for people to recover from this, and so like people that live on antidepressants all their life, you know, but nobody's made the gut-brain connection where something could happen and they wouldn't have to live on the medications. Does that make sense to you? Okay. Are you ready to talk about how do you heal the gut? Somebody asked me that. Could we do something about that?
Rest.
Oh my gosh, I call it the 4 R's to heal the gut.
Rest.
Remove the bad, replace the good, repair, and rebalance.
Add 5, make it rest.
Well, I got that, but I keep it simple with these because, you know, there's always a place you gotta rest. I agree.
Oh yeah, that's how we heal.
Remove the bad, replace the good, repair, and rebalance. Those are 4 R's that are used for the whole gut, that you could use for yeast, you can use for SIBO, a bunch of things, okay? So let's talk about removing the bad first. usually what that means to me is I start with some advanced testing and blood work to get an accurate diagnosis, so I know what to remove, right?
Do you want to share what you look at in blood work, electrolytes?
It's so different with each person that comes in.
Yourself.
As I sit with people for a comprehensive health history, and their first evaluations is minimum 2 hours. It can be longer if the patient wants more time or needs it. So I'm really looking to find clues. I'm putting on my PI cap, and I'm looking to find some clues from their story as they tell me to start to figure out what is going on to get to the root of their issues. Now, it's not always leaky gut, okay? Lots of times it's something else. So it's not the only thing I treat. It could be adrenal fatigue, okay? But if that's not treated, it could move into leaky gut. Do you see the connection? Or it could be early on in hypothyroidism, and hopefully you're taking care of some other things and making some changes in lifestyle and eating so that it doesn't progress. Those are the best where you catch it early. When you catch it later, you can still heal and recover your health. That's what I believe, that you can still rebuild your health. It just takes time, as many of you know. So, removing the bad, if it's a gut issue, we're talking about leaky gut, then I want to know that it's leaky gut, because I've had patients come in and they give signs enough to order the test, but it doesn't mean, and the test doesn't always come back. It can come back that there's something going on with the gut, but it might not be leaky gut. It could be a dysbiosis, a whole imbalance in the gut. It could be some other kind of bacterial infection. It could be parasites. It could be, yeast overgrowth. There's other tests to do. Malabsorption. So we're just focusing on leaky gut right now. So if it is leaky gut, then we want to identify that. If there is any infection, we want to identify that, parasites, anything in that, and then we want to remove the foods that are affecting them. So the first thing that goes is gluten, okay? So it depends on what people have for funds. I see people often that my hands are literally tied because they don't have insurance and they don't have money, so they're out of it. And so if I can test and see if they're off gluten, and they've been off for a long time, I can't test for accurately. But I can test to see about crossover foods. Sometimes I can't do that because the patient doesn't have the monies to do it, okay? If that's the case, and we go into removing things and go into like an autoimmune healing the gut diet, then I'm going to have to remove pseudograins, legumes, nuts. I'm going to have to remove the crossover foods. If I can't test for them, then I'm going to have to remove enough for a period of time so that the crossover foods have to be removed for a minimum of 2 months. And then you have to start adding them back in.
Or for life.
Many of you probably have done things like that.
Or like never eat them again.
What exactly is a crossover food? Is that something that messes up the gut?
She just listed them.
The crossover foods to gluten are ones that cause inflammation. And what happens there is the body mistakes it for, they're so close in their structure to gluten that it mistakes it and starts producing antibodies against them. For example, eggs, rice, corn. I listed probably about 20 of them, and we don't have the overhead so you can see
What about
that.
those eggs, those omega things?
Doesn't matter. No. It's not that they're bad for you.
It's not
but
bad.
If you've got a leaky gut, then you gotta get off gluten, and you gotta get off gluten, the crossover foods to gluten.
Yeah, anything that's going to create the autoimmune reaction from the body is going to create that
Correct.
similar reaction. So you don't. So that's anything
So
cooked
this
foods
is
3
like,
times
you
blood
go,
cell wise.
whoa, I have a couple of patients doing this right now. I start off with a phase like 2-week phase of reducing some things where they're still allowed, and they start to get off some of them.
Sounds like
and
McDougal.
get 2
McDougal's always
weeks to
cheating.
Start to get there to the heavy stuff that's coming, right? Because it just takes a bit. And every patient is different, and I'm treating one lady who's got SIBO. She's
We're the
got
drug
a
addict, that's
really
why.
severe bacterial infection in that small gut, and severe leaky gut at the same time.
Wow.
So, does that make sense, what I'm saying to you? I wish you had the overheads, I'm so sorry, because you can see it, and it's easier when you see it, because I don't want to overwhelm you with it. What I'm trying to say is, it's individualized. Sometimes what you can do is you can take those things out, and like in this case with one patient, we're removing all of that. If I was dealing with a vegan or vegetarian in this, it becomes more important, I think, to justify testing for the crossover food and your reaction, so you know exactly what you really need to take. Does that make sense?
Yeah, so when you're cleaning them out, I mean, what do you have to clean them out? Are they just drinking plain water, what are they doing to completely get rid of, since all this stuff is waste, stuff that isn't good for the gut, okay? What do
Good.
they eat?
Okay,
The things that don't inflame it, the gut.
okay, so I'm just talking in general.
Yeah, those things, other things that inflame it, the things
So
you eat, the things
it's
that
a
don't.
lot easier if the person's eating, chicken and fish. It's a lot easier if they don't have a religious region and they're willing to do that for a period of time, because the protein helps to heal the gut lining. It's a lot easier with some of the products to do that. However, it's not impossible. You're gonna look at making vegetable broths, okay? And we're creatively looking for ways to get enough in you so that you don't lose weight in it. Where I think it becomes really critical for a vegan or vegetarian that doesn't, maybe has eggs and, dairy or something, but isn't, maybe not doing fish or chicken or anything. The testing becomes really important, because if certain crossover foods are not an issue for you, then you don't have to remove them, do you?
I would still.
If they are, and they're causing inflammation,
Acid form, so.
then you have to get off.
So how long
Over
do you
time.
have to be gluten-free before you
For
get the test?
Rest of your life. Oh.
Oh, no. If you test for gluten, you have to be on gluten. You don't have to be gluten-free for any
Oh, I think
test.
so, oh,
No.
but it's
Just the opposite. So now, let's move on, replacing with the good. So let's think about that.
Let's go with
So that's gonna be like the best quality food that you can afford, lots of vegetables, some fruits, lots of vegetables. Okay? Increase vegetables in amounts that most people, maybe not you guys, don't eat. Like the recommendation is like 5 fruits and 5 vegetables a day, but that isn't even, the nutrients aren't even in our food. It's not in the soil. I would say that it's not possible to get everything you need in the soil from the foods today, because it's not in them. Because the soil is so depleted. They're actually saying that maybe you need to get 7 to 9 vegetables a day. I mean, hello, who does that? 7 to 9, not unless you're drinking them.
I'd say
Maybe some
20.
people do,
I'm like,
but I'm talking about most people don't.
I'm more about 20 or 30.
Okay, that's
Yeah,
fantastic.
I know. Because you need, otherwise you can't get enough calories.
Yeah, but celery. No, this is servings, not sprinkles. It's not sprinkles. So it's a lot more vegetables, okay? And then for.
Maybe 50, I don't know. I had a lot of oranges today.
Protein to heal the gut.
Mm.
You've lost nutrients, so you're nutrient deficient. You, in order to repair the gut, you need L-glutamine, okay? And you need it in larger doses, and I can't really give all of that to you because it's really individualized of what I can do with each person and what they can tolerate. I like to use gluten with aloe and deglycerized licorice
Uh-oh.
to
Aloe's
help
not
heal
good.
the gut lining, okay? So I like those products a lot. I like collagen hydrolysate by Great Lakes. I like that product a lot because of the nutrients and how it helps to heal the gut and the body. I like bone broth. I use slippery elm sometimes, quercetin. Obviously, if someone's vegan, vegetarian, you have to adjust these things. It looks different.